you dead? Are you in heaven?
Hi guys, just doing this little introduction here to let you know that we are aware that Sir Michael Parkinson has passed away. We actually recorded this episode before then. With us both working full time, we've simply not had the chance to re-record this episode. So it's just something to take into account as you are watching. Please enjoy and rest in peace, Sir Michael. Hello, welcome back to YCFT. This week, we're talking about a TV event that happened all the way back in 1992. Ghostwatch.
Ghostwatch.
Sam's you were a massive fan of this. I watched it for the first time.
Yeah.
Basically, this was an event, like I said, 1992, Halloween night. It was a fake live broadcast.
So that's the house where it might all happen tonight, or it might not. We shall see. We're going to investigate one of the most baffling and fascinating areas of human experience, the supernatural.
About a haunted house.
Yes.
The studio side of it, which was Michael Parkinson.
Yes. Very famous British broadcaster.
Yeah, very famous, giving this some proper legitimacy there.
Yes.
With what people didn't realise was an actress playing like a paranormal investigator expert.
Yeah, like a parapsychologist essentially sitting in the studio with him, watching the events unfold.
Yeah, and they're watching their investigators in this house, which is very much inspired by the Enfield hauntings. There's so many references to it throughout. They're doing their investigations throughout, and that is Sarah Green and Mike Green?
Well, Mike Smith is in the studio with Parkinson.
I knew they were married. I couldn't remember if they had the last name. He's
Smith.
in the studio with them, but Sarah Green, she is with the family in this house and a crew. Craig Charles popping in every now and then for some comedic effect, playing themselves, investigating this house.
Yes.
Again, having her in it and her husband was another thing that gave it some gravity, because they did a lot of the Crime Watch, Hospital Watch, a couple of these
Rail Watch.
a couple of these shows which were real kind of documentary style things into
all of these people involved in Ghostwatch were recognisable people on British television at the time that were known for being in reality programmes. You know, like Sarah Green, she was
panoramas.
Panoramas, yeah, that's the way to say it. So, you know, people tuning in 1992, if you didn't get the heads up that, you know, this was entirely fictional, it was just something the BBC were doing, you know, to fill the Halloween slot, you could be mistaken for thinking this was real. This was a real live broadcast. Sarah Green is in this actual haunted house somewhere in London. Michael Parkinson is at the studio, doing his little bit on it. You could easily be mistaken for thinking...
And people were.
Oh yeah, they did.
The BBC, they did credit the writer at the beginning.
Stephen Volk.
I think as a way to try and get ahead a little bit, maybe for some test screenings.
Maybe.
And so naturally, it wasn't live. It was pre-recorded. I think in the July, they filmed the house segment of it. In the summer, so it was during a heat wave, so they had to cover the entire house in black felt and obviously try and hide what it is they're doing, so they did all of that.
Yes.
And then in August, they did all the studio segments, edited together.
Yeah.
On Saturday night, we'll be visiting the most haunted house in Britain. But will the ghosts be there?
Just after Watershed, and this is the problem, a lot of kids got scared. They actually do address it in this, because they have people ringing in, fake people ringing in. I want to say, my kids are terrifying. And Party goes, well, it is past Watershed. Your kids should be in bed.
Yeah, they were preempting, what could have been, actual calls if this was a real live, program. People ringing in, and yeah, I like how they do.
Hoaxes, yeah.
They do address that, but yeah, the program Ghostwatch, it does have its own sort of phone line, and Parky says at the beginning, we want to hear from the public, we want to hear your own ghost stories. There's locked off cameras in the house, and they say, if you see anything on the cameras, then do call into this number. And apparently actual viewers at the time did call in the number.
So the number worked.
Because it was a real number, and the first thing that you'd hear if you got through was, this is a fictional show, this number is it's dead. So people were told, if you didn't already know, which I guess they didn't, because why else would you ring in? It was fake. They were told it was fake at the time.
Makes me think this could not happen today. Because in 1992, you've got to picture this as the early 90s. We weren't even born yet.
No.
But I have a very vivid memory of 90s television from
I remember the 90s vividly.
But today, as soon as anyone got an idea of it being fake, it's all over Twitter.
Yeah.
the only way people would find out it was fake is if you rang in, and then it's how many people can they tell within the duration of the show by like calling them. So there's no way for you to just find out if it's fake. No. And I think that really is testament to when this was made. And reality TV wasn't what it is today. People weren't expected to be lied to like that.
No, Big Brother wasn't a thing. You know, reality TV didn't really exist.
And this is the BBC.
This is the BBC, guys. We trust the BBC.
We trusted the BBC. It's a ton of fun. Like I said, it got a boatload of I think it received like 100,000 calls, but about 30,000 of them were complaints.
Yes, 30,000 approximately.
For like people being scared. Because I think a lot of people finished watching a movie on ITV and then went across to the BBC. So if they would have completely missed the written by at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of cases a few years later of like, it was two kids that were diagnosed with post-Ghostwatch PTSD.
Yes. This is the very first known instance in British television of an actual TV programme being put into the British Medical Journal. Ghostwatch is the very first instance. It's the very first programme that was cited as an actual cause for PTSD
now, there
in
was
children.
Controversy with it.
Yes.
And that is that a man did take his life 5 days afterwards. Now, I think he was about 18 years old, Martin Denham. But he had the mental capacity of a 13-year-old. And apparently he has like loud pipes in his house, and he related what he saw on Ghostwatch to what was happening in his house. So I believe that his house was haunted, and he pretty much name-checked Ghostwatch in his note. Basically, I'll always be with you, because he believed in ghosts because of it. So they sued the BBC.
His parents
sued the BBC over that. Like,
I don't know how far it got.
I don't know how far it got. And obviously,
it's a tragic. It really is a tragic tale. Yeah, he committed suicide, unfortunately, 5 days after, and there were numerous headlines at the time. I think it was pretty big news. The BSC, the Broadcasting Standards Commission, said that Ghostwatch was a deliberate attempt to cultivate Menace, which is a fucking fantastic quote.
That's a fantastic sentence.
Yes, a lot of the complaints saying that it aired too soon after Watershed. They complained about the child abuse elements within the story. They complained about the nature of the main ghost and his backstory. They're absolutely riddled with complaints. Obviously, children saying that they got PTSD because of this. The BBC officially apologised. They said we had absolutely no idea that this was going to explode in the way that it had. We just thought we were doing this like fun programme. Whatever you believe or not, I think the BBC, like, this is like attention that any programme would crave for.
They did have the foresight to put written by.
They did.
I think what they needed was a scene right at the end where everyone's on stage and it's basically saying, "Oh, it's all just fake." Then everyone would know
like
for sure.
Predator-style credits, like Parky just turning to the camera being like...
And
something.
Yeah, just a little bit something, but...
Well, anyway...
Ultimately, when they say, it's too soon after Watershed, it's like, come on, let's be real.
It's after the Watershed.
It's after the Watershed.
There's no such thing as too soon after the Watershed. It's you're either pre-Watershed or you post it.
Yeah, exactly. As a children, we all watch things after the Watershed.
Yes.
Every now and then.
But
if you're watching something on Halloween post-Watershed, you've got to expect that there's going to be something a little bit darker.
Well... And
ultimately, you take the risk in letting your kids watch something like that. I messaged a mate about this who would have been a child when this aired. So shout out for you, Wes. He told me he remembers watching it. I think he must have been about 9 years old when he watched it. And he said it gave him nightmares for a week.
He's one of the kids.
I love that for some of the...
PTSD.
I feel like I'm making fun of how old he is.
Yeah, you just outed him there.
I just outed him for being an old man. It's quite cool to have something that did happen like before I was born, but to know people who have vivid memories of watching it. Your mum... She wasn't a fan of it, but she does remember watching it.
She remembers vividly watching it.
Yeah, I don't think my parents did, because it wasn't their type of thing.
Well, when I was asking my mum about it, she does remember it. She watched it with my dad, and she knew it was fake. So I think because of that, she kind of was just more. She took the approach of kind of like laughing with it, like laughing with the program necessarily. She wasn't scared by it because she knew it was. She knew it was all dramatized.
It fooled a lot of people.
It fooled the nation.
It is pretty much banned from airing on British television in its entirety. Also, there's been documentaries about it, so there's been clips of it, but it has never been played on British television in its entirety since 1992.
This is where we are. This programme, so controversial, it's never been repeated on British television. ever since 1992.
America, it's shown all the time. I think it was on Shudder. Basically, the BBC still got to sell the rights to it all over the world and probably made a boatload of money off it. But it will not be shown on British television. I was so happy when I saw that 101 had done a remastered Blu-ray of it, though. And it has the 30th anniversary documentary in it.
It's infamous at this point.
It's notorious. 30th anniversary last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's quite an up-to-date documentary on it. It was so interesting.
It was your first time watching it, but you'd heard of it.
I'd heard of it, yeah.
You were aware that Ghostwatch was a thing. And again, you knew it was fake.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to say it. I've seen this a couple of times. This is scary as hell.
I was uncomfortable in certain moments.
It holds up. Regardless of the fact that it's fake, that it was scripted to an extent, it was kind of improvised, but it was a drama. It was directed by a lady called Leslie Manning. It was written obviously by Stephen Volk, who's written a lot of dramas over the years. This fucking freaked us out when we watched it recently.
Downstairs, just outside.
It's a lot. I 100% think that Mike Flanagan was inspired by this because the main ghost, Pipes he's called.
Yes.
This one-eyed ghost. He is in the background of several scenes, and I think...
Spot the Ghost.
Spot the Ghost, yeah. I think he's meant to appear 13 times.
Directors confirmed 13 times.
We spotted... I think we only spotted like 6 or 7. So we had to watch a video pointing him out, and there's some... He is right in your face, and you have no idea that he's there.
Yeah.
And this is 92.
It's
this
1992.
Is before the Blair Witch Project. The creator of Paranormal Activity, I can't remember.
Oren Peli.
He has been confirmed to say that it inspired Paranormal Activity.
He's cited Ghostwatch as a source of inspiration.
Yeah, so it has massive cultural impact. But there are some scenes where the ghost pops up where we're like, oh, holy shit, he's there.
It's terrifying.
It's all kids' pictures. I went here before. I didn't know they had a cat.
And also, for 1992, I don't really know how to describe like the effects of the ghost, but it's very much in the style of like, a camera pans, and as it's panning, you see him briefly, and then it kind of cuts back, and he's disappeared.
Yeah.
But you don't see him like flesh and blood. He's just like the outline of something is there, like famous, the kind of blending in with the background.
The famous shot of the bedroom when someone does call and say, "Oh, there's a man or there's a woman stood there," and you kind of see like his outline, and then it kind of like disappears when they play it back. Really, really well done. But there's so many parallels with the Enfield. And there's even a segment where one of the girls is like faking it with pipes.
We need to talk about the Enfield poltergeist.
And there's moments that you can put side by side, and you're like, oh, this event happened then. Yeah. It is the Enfield hauntings.
So for anyone who doesn't know, the Enfield haunting was
Conjuring 2 for anyone.
Basically the plot of the Conjuring 2. It was a very, very famous haunting in, I think it was the 70s in Enfield in London, of a lower class family, a single mum and her 2 daughters who began citing paranormal activity in their home and, severe poltergeist activity to the extent where they called in the police. And one of the reasons why it became so famous is because the 2 police officers that actually went to the house who were called, they confirmed that they had seen paranormal activity. Like they backed up what the family was saying. So over a couple of months and weeks, it gains some credence. It gets loose in the press, and it becomes this huge, like, nationwide event. Very famous case even to this day. Cameras go in, paranormal investigators go into the house, and they gathered lots of evidence. Some of which involve, there's famous photographs of the 2 girls, Janet, the youngest girl, who a lot of the activity was kind of centred around, supposedly levitating from her bed. The most infamous evidence from the whole case is the voice of Bill, which is a voice recording of this very spooky old man kind of emanating from Janet. There's no video footage of it, but there is there's a recording. And supposedly the ghost of Bill is speaking through Janet. And again, lending a little bit more credibility to the story is there was actually a man called Bill who did actually die in that house. The family maintained that they had no knowledge of this. But, and this is a big but, the girls did admit to faking some of the evidence. They didn't admit to faking all of it, but some of it. They did. And there is some video footage of when the two daughters are being interviewed, and you can tell like they're kind of giggling, and as the voice of Bill starts emanating through Janet again, but then as it's happening, she's kind of covering her mouth a little bit, almost as though she doesn't want the camera to see that, you know, she's got this ability to speak in this weird voice.
They mirror this in Ghostwatch, because
this is the plot.
We have one of the girls is like emanating a ghostly voice. They fake a couple of things.
Well, it's a
the ghost
single
has told
mother
them
and two
to.
daughters.
Yeah.
Stop it! Stop it, Susie! Suzanne, you're coming with me. Suzanne?
It's so well done. It really, especially for the... I say especially for the 90s, like for what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
It's basically... I'm going to say this is like one of my favourite found footage.
You
movies.
said it was the greatest one you'd seen.
It is. It's... I think it's because you don't have any of that, say, Diary of the Dead, for example. When I was beginning the disclaimer, like, oh, I've edited together the footage at the end and added in music where appropriate. I'm like, well, you've lost me. Because we've got it as this live broadcast setting, they've got someone in a studio to bounce off. Then the studio, they can pull in information from other areas, they can rewind it. It just works so well. And it means it's not just steady cam cameras through the whole thing. We're going to like proper studio setups. Yeah. It flows so much better. It tells a story so much better than your average found footage. And I do like a lot of found footage films.
Yeah,
I think a lot more really interesting, but there are a lot of tropes that are really annoying that aren't present here just because of the studio and the live broadcast setup. Yeah.
They cover all angles in Ghostwatch because you've got Parky and you've got Dr. Pascoe, who was not, as we said at the beginning, this actress was not a broadcaster. She was an actual.
She worked on a film with Judi Dench not too long ago, and Judi said she rang us saying, "Oh, you ruined my evening because I thought this was going to be a live thing, and then I saw you were in it. I
saw you were in it, so I knew it was fake."
Instantly knew. Yeah, it was fake.
Which is great.
That's really funny.
That's an amazing story. But Parky and Pascoe in the studio, he's asking her all the right questions. He's asking her about the paranormal. He's asking her specific questions about this particular case, why the doctor got interested in it. Then we're cutting back to the house and we've got Sarah Green and, she's chatting to the family. She's interviewing the daughters, the cameramen.
Playing games with them and stuff like that.
She's playing games with them. So we're cutting back and forth. And then we've got Smitty, Mike Smith, who's Sarah Green's husband, also a broadcaster. He's manning the phone lines and he's letting us know what people are calling in saying, and he's telling us that, people in the children's bedroom are spotting what looks like to be a woman in a long cloak-like dress by the curtains, always in the bedroom. And we get calls like this throughout the broadcast, people calling in saying, yeah, I'm also seeing this. So we've got like 3 different sort of strands, and they all bounce and blend off each other just seamlessly. And in the house, it steadily kind of builds and builds and builds.
Yeah. Whereas the studio side of it and the calling side of it, we've got some. Obviously, they put up a couple of hoaxy calls in there because naturally they would get some, but also like little bits of information are slowly built. I don't think we should spoil the entire ghost story just because I think there is a large amount, especially the British population, who won't have seen it.
Okay.
The hauntings do start to increase. You got some bit more poltergeist activity and a couple of really well placed jump scares.
Okay, I won't go into it then, but the backstory of Pipes, the
it's pretty dark.
It's dark.
It's dark.
But it is explored. A caller rings in and explains who he believes the ghost of Pipes actually is, and what actually happened to this person. It actually is very dark, and I think that's one of the areas that received a lot of complaints. It's just, even just like thinking back on it now, like it's so well done. Like I can't overestimate just how clever the whole thing actually was. And even, considering that Parky, Sarah Green, Mike Smith, they're broadcasters. Apparently Sarah Green did have an acting background, which I think helped. Because she's on camera quite a lot.
I think she has the hardest job.
But she was saying, wasn't she? Like she was doing like a lot of like a lot of this, like the microphone in the ear, like as if she was talking to Parky back in the studio, like touching her ear a lot, which is a nice little touch.
But you're saying like you don't genuinely do that.
You don't do that, but it's to give the effect.
They were pantomiming it.
Yeah, she's talking to someone in the studio. It's, and yeah, we've got Craig Charles, who, again, for anyone who doesn't know, is a British actor, comedy actor, also
presenter.
Again, very
Coronation Street, Red Dwarf, Robot Wars.
He's known on British TV, and he's kind of manning the crowd. So obviously, there's camera crews in this house, and a lot of the neighbours are outside. They're intrigued as to what's going on. So he's doing like a lot of the field producing. He's going around to the crowd, like asking people what their experiences have been. He's not a believer. Yeah, he's kind of like the cheeky chappy. But so yeah, so 4 different strands, I guess, to the whole story.
He doesn't play that much of a big part.
No. But it's a nice like additional element.
He fills the role of essentially the neighbours filling in the gaps in the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it is 100% worth a watch. It's not impossible to get. In fact, I'm pretty sure the whole thing is on YouTube. Like, you're not going to get in trouble for watching this banned movie. It's not a video nasty.
It's not. No, not at all. I mean, look, it's only 12. Like it's not gory by any means, but it is scary. I don't think this is something I could watch on my own.
Maybe now I know.
I don't think I could do it.
It's a testament to its time. You could not do something like this today and it be as effective because we've seen it before.
Yeah.
But essentially, the low-tech version of this is kind of what makes it creepy. And I think watching it on Blu-ray, we maybe noticed a few things that would have been harder to see on the TVs. Back then, like there's a ghost in the studio quite early on.
There is.
And it's like, I think people often did find it, but how obvious was it when it first came out?
The brilliant thing about the show as well is, obviously we've talked about, like the spot the ghost element, which as the audience we can take part in as well. And obviously it's a thing within the programme of the callers ringing in being like, oh, I've seen something in the children's bedroom, like I've seen something outside or whatever it is. But they never confirm it, really. There is a lot of, oh, can we play the tape back? Can we maybe go back to that footage? Can we timestamp where it is? And there's a little bit of debunking sometimes.
Yeah.
Other times you go back to the footage and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And then you're just left thinking, oh shit, did I see something there? Like I'm not sure.
It's like having someone like Michael Parkinson, very, very well respected. I think he still is very well respected to this day, even though he's long retired.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again,
he gives gravitas.
He does. Leslie Manning, the director, said that he was casual, but he was responsive, and that's exactly the kind of attitude that they needed, for the studio presence. Like, whilst chaos is going on in the house, and it's building and building the activity. When we cut back to the studio, you need to have someone like Parkinson who's like, trying to keep control and, like trying to, just do his thing, essentially. So
that's the unique part, that when stuff starts happening in the studio as well, is that's something I wasn't expecting. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this.
Well, I actually think I had such a, don't want to talk about the ending, but like what she said, what the doctor says, like her kind of analysis, I guess, of the whole thing of, like we've kind of been conducting one huge seance.
I think we can do. I mean, like I don't want to give away like the ending to the pipes.
Oh, okay.
Story within the house, like we can say, they've basically, by having people watching this and calling in, they've basically been doing a massive seance and massively boosting the supernatural activity,
boosting the energy,
and that's why people calling notice that like, they're out, their dogs are barking at the tellies, the clocks are all stopping, and things start happening within the studio, and it's really.
It's
cool.
Fantastic. It is so good. Like, it's actually just really inventive. Can't sell enough just how unique this was for its time. And it is also special because you say, like, you couldn't do it today. You couldn't sell it.
The secret would be out far too easily.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad, really. It's like, I was thinking while we were watching it, like, we can't even, I'm going to use Deadpool 3 really as an example here. How much of that film has been revealed online as it's been filming?
Yeah.
That would have been cool to see just in the cinema. Like, there's like 3 or 4 massive set pieces that have been revealed.
Spoiled. Yeah.
So there's not a chance in hell we could get away with something like this. And but also because we've seen a lot of reality, we're used to like MTV, we're used to the things being a bit fake, TLC, all those types of shows. To go back in time to this, where a lot of people trusted what they were seeing, that's just we'll never get that back.
We'll never get it back.
And it's a cool little time capsule of the 90s.
I think it's just, as it is, it's just a cool experiment. It's amazing that this actually exists.
Yeah.
That this happened. They pulled it off, and it became what it became. And the tragic events that we were talking about at the beginning, like, undeniably, that is absolutely tragic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of leads into a whole other discussion of, you know, how much can fictional TV be blamed for, you know, real life actions. Like, we've spoken a little bit about that when we did Chucky 3.
Yeah.
Child's Play 3. But I think it does ultimately go to show just how
Effective
scary people did actually find this.
I think that goes back to what I was saying. They needed a scene with all of them in the studio, the whole cast, and they kind of go, "Hey, I hope you've enjoyed this tonight." Like, just a final admittance that it was fake.
But it ends very ominously.
Yeah, quite ominously.
Very
but then there are
ominous.
credits, and it is.
Yeah,
if you read the credits, you can it's clear.
Yeah.
That's it, because you've got actors like being credited as characters, and you've got a writer, so it's obvious that it's fake. But if you're as a child, you're not watching the credits, are you? So I think something visual to say this was not real would have helped. And I think if they ever did, I think it's about time. Just air it on television. Come on. It's been 30 years. Just put a disclaimer at the beginning.
I do wonder why it's never been repeated. I really do, because like in the last,
It's easy. It was easy to get a hold of.
Very easy to find. Yeah.
Through like the proper channels, and we've seen this in HMV, so it's not bad. It's not banned from buying it.
And it's one of those things where anyone I've met or spoken to who's seen this, they love it. Yeah. I've never met.
They have very vivid memories of it.
Yeah, I've never encountered anyone who said, "Oh, Ghostwatch was shit." You know, like, "Oh, Ghostwatch, yeah, it's overrated." No one's ever said that. People love this, and I'm so happy now we have it on Blu-ray, on DVD. I would watch this again, but as I say, like, I don't think I could watch this on my own. Like,
I think it could be a good Halloween tradition. This one, like,
creep me out. It really did creep me, because I still don't think I've spotted pipes in every single scene.
No.
I think there's more of him too.
The writer, he did, apparently on his website, he did write a short story called 3110, which is the date that it aired, which is like a short sequel to the events of the thing, and you can download it for free. So I'm probably going to check that out just to see where the story went.
Maybe.
But he's still actively writing things.
Just another a small thing which I really liked, and I've always wondered this, and it was confirmed in the making of it. But halfway through the programme, Sarah Green, she tells the audience about a personal ghost story of hers, like something unconnected to the house, but something that she went through years ago. And I always wondered if it was scripted or not. And it's been confirmed that was actually a personal ghost story of Sarah Green's that they just used for the programme as well, which in itself is quite eerie. I really do like that. Yeah, I like the blend of the scripted and a little bit of the improv too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's brilliant.
I think the two kid actors did a pretty good job as well.
I think the younger one does. Like, my only thing, like the elder one, like her line delivery, it's the only thing. Sometimes it comes across as like a little bit scripted, but
yeah, I suppose in the 90s you could just see it as, you know, people act differently when they know they're on telly.
But yeah.
So maybe that's what you could put, if you were watching it when it aired, you'd just be like, oh, they're just being weird because the cameras are there.
They were real life sisters as well.
Yeah, they were. Which is weird, they don't look alike.
No, but I think it probably helped, you know, like with the dynamic and...
The mum was really good.
I thought the mum was great. I thought she was really good. But yeah...
The guy who played Pipes was ominous in all the ways he could be.
Yes. Keith Ferrari, I think he's called. Yeah. I did Google him, and I've not seen any other credits for him.
To be fair, it's like, for the type of role he has, you don't really need an actor to do it.
There's only one photo that exists of him in costume and like in the...
Yeah.
In makeup. Just one. And even that's like a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
But this, it's just like, as an experiment, it's brilliant. I love that they did it.
Yeah,
and I love that...
The BBC is not known for being the most boldest of broadcasters, especially back then. So this was quite bold for them because, like I said, because they had the likes of Crime Watch, all that sort of thing. It just kind of felt like it would fit in with their type of television until it really didn't.
You know, unfortunately...
This feels like something Channel 4 would have done.
Yeah, but, you know, Channel 4 known for being quite experimental and quite kind of brazen with its...
Maybe that's again why people trusted it and say, oh, it's the BBC.
It's the BBC. They wouldn't possibly fool us like this. A deliberate attempt to cultivate menace.
I might even title this video that. A deliberate attempt to cultivate menace.
It's a shame that the BBC is known for apologising a lot these days for things. But, you know, this is something, it had to apologise for this purely because of the controversy surrounding it. But I really recommend it if you can track it down.
You might even still get creeped out by it.
Oh, I was creeped out by this.
Yeah.
Seen it a few times and it always gets me because I always forget where he is. And when I do see it, it's so jarring. But very, very well done. It is jump scary, but I think ultimately it's just, it's the build-up of the events. But there is a genuinely kind of compelling story too. And that is helped by the different components, you know, the studio and the on-location stuff.
My last little fact, something I really enjoyed was, you know when you're watching live television, sometimes when they've cut away to like a film or an advert and you come back and maybe something's not quite right, so you see like the stagehand is talking to someone, then kind of they'll cut away or he has to quickly leave.
Like it's a cock-up.
Yeah, like it's cock-up. They do that here. And I think that's just little things that sells legitimacy.
Yeah, well, Leslie Manning, again, director, she was talking about that because the actual producer of Ghostwatch came to the set that day and watched that happening. And he saw, like, the stagehand on the set, like, chatting to Parky, and Parky's like, "Ooh, get off." And the producer didn't get it. He thought that was a genuine cock-up, that the stagehand was visible on camera.
Yeah.
And she had to explain to him, no, like, that's part of it. We need to show the audience, like, remind them, like, this is, you know, like, make it look real, guys. This is so it's, again, way ahead of the curve.
Have you got any more notes on this one?
I could talk about this for ages, but no.
Thanks for stopping by, guys. Check it out.
It's so good.
It's a little piece of television history.
Well,
and
British broadcasting history.
Yeah, it's infamous.
It really is. Yeah, it's actually, it's brilliant. Like, I can't sell it enough.
Yeah, so if you want to feel a bit rebellious and watch a film that's barred from British television, then have a night with some popcorn and watch it with some friends this Halloween.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, you won't regret it.
Yeah.
And we will see you next week.